What's the highest thing you have ever done while high? My cousin and I got stoned on his roof late at night, and his brother couldn't know we smoked. So once the munchies kicked in, we went to his kitchen to get some chocolate biscuit cake. My cousin pulled out 2 tiny-ass plates and 2 forks. He then proceeded to slam the fork into the cake. I said, "Why don't you use a knife?" But then he just smiled and ripped off the most perfect piece of cake I've ever seen. Then he spotted his brother and ran into his room and left me in the kitchen. I was going to run too, but I hadn't got my piece of cake yet. His brother walked into the kitchen and said, "Oh, chocolate biscuit cake." And I was under so much pressure to act normal that I didn't know what to do. So I slammed my fork into the cake and smiled and proceeded to rip the cake in half. He freaked out and said, "Why the fuck didn't you use a knife?" And then the uncontrollable laughter kicked in. I said I didn't know where the knives were, to which he replied, "Where did you get the fork?" So I pointed at a random drawer which he opened and had only knives in it. I couldn't control my laughter anymore, so I ran away with my giant piece of cake falling off my tiny plate. I don't think he knew I was high. Probably. Edit. Spelling "thank you kind stranger" for my first silver. Haha, fuck, this was so relatable. I started dying at the part where you pointed to the random drawer and it was literally full of knives, LOL. The image of someone high AF, laughing hysterically, and running away with half a cake on a tiny plate is incredible. Shit, I'm high AF right now, and I just laughed to the point of crying LOL. At this point in my life, I had agoraphobia, and while high, mustered up the courage to go grocery shopping for what was probably the 4th time in my life. Great idea. I'm so fucking stoned that I decide to try the deli counter for the first time ever. And I see this little container on the counter. I start to panic and scramble to find a tip for what my high mind decided was a tip jar. I get my order, smile at the deli person, and make eye contact with her as I go to put $2 in the jar. But it isn't a tip jar. It's a trash can for the tickets. And we're still making eye contact. And I slowly die as I have to commit to my mistake and stuff my money into the trash can. It took me 4 years to go to a deli counter again. Edit. Thank you for the silver. I'm glad my embarrassment brought joy. The mental image of someone staring into the eyes of the deli worker while they throw $2 into the garbage had me cry laughing for a good 10 minutes. Why is it so damn hard to just be normal for a second when you're high? Faced with tears of joy, I never go shopping while high because of that exact reason. One time in Norway, I was so baked I could barely stand, and yet I thought it was a good opportunity to try and understand how the automatic bread slicing machine worked at nearby grocery store. I couldn't understand for the love of my life where to place the loaf and what levers to pull and what buttons to push. It was impossible. I must have looked like a lost fool because after a while this grown-up, obviously not baked man, came up and showed me step by step how to do it. I was a bit relieved and ashamed at the same time, but thankful. A friend and I cut a block of cheddar into little cubes, melted half of them, and dipped the rest of the cubes in the melted cheese. So good. Edit. Gold and silver for something I did while high. You almost really love cheese. Thanks. I did this my first time getting high. Except the cheese was from a gas station nacho pump, and the other cheese was a Three Musketeers bar. I caught myself saying good night as I blew out my scented candle. Laughed like an idiot for 15 minutes. I was on Skype with my best friend, and as she was talking to me, I just sat there watching her because I thought I was watching Netflix. This is my favorite response in this thread. I've been in that position before. Just totally zoned, not really taking in the information. Just kind of observing until the other person stops talking and your brain realizes this isn't one-sided. Went downstairs to pour a glass of milk for myself. My parents happened to be in the kitchen. So my best sober impression, I pour a glass quickly and leave. Halfway up the stairs, I realize I took the gallon and not the glass. At that point, I had to commit. Power move. 100, at least you left them some milk though. It's like in Tom and Jerry when the mouse cuts a tiny slice off a ham, then eats the whole remaining ham. Was tripping on acid and didn't have any water, went to the Quickie Mart and felt weird as fuck, so I decided to act normal. What do normal people do? They buy paper towels and food. I did just that along with a few other things. No one noticed I was high and it was a success. Made it back home and realized, yeah, I forgot to get water. Having worked long ago at both a grocery store and a convenience store, let me ease your mind. No one gave a single solitary fuck that you were high AF. Was tripping on acid once, went to the local 7 to 11, walked in, and lady behind the counter said, "Hey guys, how are you doing?" Having a random ask me how I was doing was pretty mind-blowing. All I could get out was a PFFFFFT. You have no idea. Everyone but me thought it was hilarious. Skateboarding at a middle school while on acid at about 2 in the morning with my other skater friend who was also on acid, and his non-skater sort of girlfriend who was also on acid. We were just skating when suddenly the girlfriend goes, "Oh my god, there's people in that CAR," and points at one of the cars. Now I've been vaguely aware of the presence of cars, but I was just skating around paying them no mind. My idiot friend starts peering into windows. Yeah. Dude, they're in all of them. I'll admit, the fact that people were in cars set me back for a minute. But my friends are loudly debating/discussing this. Eventually, my friend taps on one of the windows. This soccer mom rolls her window down about 1/4 of an inch and is like, "Yes? Can I help you?" Excuse me, but dude, why are you here?" We're picking our children up from a basketball game. Why? Okay. By this point, the tiny, sober voice in the back of my mind is urging me. Dude, the optics of this situation look really bad. Your friends are idiots. So I did what anyone would do with a head full of drugs when their druggy friends are being idiots. I took the fuck off. I pointed my skateboard in the direction of nope and started pushing. In my mind, I was ditching them. "You guys go get arrested. I don't want none of that shit." They ran after me like, why going? I had the hardest time trying to explain why what they did was socially unacceptable. I had the hardest time coming up with terms like socially unacceptable later that night/early the next morning while heading back to the dorms. I beat the holy fucking shit out of him with my skateboard while I loudly sobbed. Like I'm just sobbing and shouting, "Fuck you, man," while pummeling this guy's face. Cops showed up, and I managed to give a decent statement. The girl he was spying on was hysterical. Dude had a bunch of warrants. Cops just let me go. I became a legend on campus and got invited to all the cool parties after that. I had to get a new skateboard because there was blood all over the grip tape, and I hated being reminded of what I did. I wanted to buy a bottle of water on acid too, once. I think I also bought some chips or something like that. I went to the self-checkout register because I didn't want to talk to any cashier. I started scanning my stuff, but then I couldn't figure out how to use it. Note that I was a cashier myself back then, and sometimes helped customers with the self-checkout. I saw the help button and thought, "Oh, I better not click on this, someone's gonna come." As I was thinking this, my finger was slowly moving towards the button, and it hit the button. I got scared, so I just left everything there and exited the store. I have a tripping in the grocery store story myself. My now husband and I went to get some snacks to tuck into a movie for the duration of our trip. I get pretty zoned out staring at the snacks. There were so many options. I started to wonder if normal people stare at the snacks for this long. I noticed my mouth was open while I was staring. I still can't make any decisions. All of a sudden, there's a cacophony behind me that shakes me to my core. I turn around to look and knock over a display of cheese balls, already making a scene. Then, I look toward the sound. There's a high school marching band in full uniform in the frozen food section. The shock and absurdity of it all had me laughing like the insane high person I was. The mask fell. I had the munchies and walked to a Subway nearby. On the way back, I see a car in the driveway and wonder who it is. Turned out it was the pizza I ordered and immediately forgot about. Edit. On the way back, I see a car and wonder who it is. I want some of what this guy is having. When I lived with my parents, I would take a blunt walk. One time it was like 11 at night, and I was on my way back home after smoking. Remind you I was walking. So I see the stop sign and literally stop walking. Stood right there for like 5 minutes wondering when it will turn green. Then I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to run it. It didn't hit me till I got home that it was a fucking stop sign. I cracked myself up for a while. Good on you for obeying the footpath signs. I made buying hot dogs at a gas station feel like a fucking heist. I was super paranoid, and one of the clerks was stocking the buns. I approached slowly thinking, just be cool. So I'm using the tongs to grab the bread, and I'm fucking shaking because I'm super nervous. It takes me forever to make a hot dog. I approach the counter to pay, and I'm trying so hard to look normal because I think they're going to call the cops. I don't make eye contact, I avoid small talk, and get out immediately. I get back to the car where my friend and his dad were driving. His dad says, "What the fuck took you so long?" We almost left her ass. At a reggae festival in SF, I ate way too many edibles. Like way too many. I've never been 1/4 as high on anything as on this day. I spent the entire day in the back, head on my knees while insane visuals swirled around. After I tried to buy spicy peanuts to sober up since I had to go home, and I couldn't figure out how to pay, just had to give the 7 to 11 cashier a lot of money and hope I got the right amount back. He could have passed back squares of paper, and I wouldn't have been able to tell. I've never been functionally non-functional before or since. Also, peanuts did not sober me up. Ate 1/4 of a tray of edibles to see what happens, which was about 5 grams worth of weed. 20 minutes in, I started feeling it, and that's when I knew I fucked up, because it normally takes 45 minutes to 1 hour and a half to feel the first effects. 30 minutes in, I was already the most high I had ever been, and I knew I was in for a wild time. Was frozen to the bed watching Planet Earth 2, and had a crazy experience where I realized how disposable us humans really are. It's just we have become civilized and are away from the wild and the dangers within. But we are only animals ourselves. Shatter my ego. This was at 1 hour in. I spent the next hours conflicted between questioning every minute whether this was the peak, because surely I couldn't get more high than this. I was constantly proven wrong, and trying to work out age. I had to get off my bed and walk to the fridge. Peaked at around 2.5 hours in and never managed to get out of my bed for food. Woke up 14 hours later and was still very high. Dude, 6 of us went to get ice cream, and I went last because I was so stoned and wanted to hear other order, so I didn't fuck it up, got to the counter, a sweaty mess. I just went. Same. There was moments though when I wished I wasn't high. With smoking, when you wish you were no longer high. If you're a seasoned pothead, it normally goes away within 20-45 minutes as you come back down to a baseline high, or at least feel better. With edibles, you're locked in for at least 4 to 6 steady hours of being stoned, depending on the dosage. Also, eating it is very different than smoking it. Eating, it produces a more psychedelic effect that is like a trip in its own right. Time can slow down, and you can reach closed-eye visuals. Smoked a bong after getting my tonsils out when I was told not to. Thought I couldn't taste the old vanilla ice cream I was eating, and that I had fried my taste buds because I smoked too soon after the surgery. This made sense at the time. My dad walked in the kitchen as I was pouring the salt shaker in my mouth to see if I could taste it all. It was hard to taste anything over the face bomb from my dad at it. And yes, I poured in way too much salt. I put my TV remote in the freezer several times when getting my Ben & Jerry's. I went to pee and forgot to fucking pull down my underwear. This is the one that finally has me laughing out loud. One time, I went to pee and I didn't forget to pull my underwear down. But I instead forgot to lift the toilet seat, so I just sat down and immediately pissed all over it and got it all over the floor in a public restroom. Mortifying. I bought about $100 worth of Yu-Gi-Oh cards last night. I haven't played that game in 10 years, and I have no time to during college. Donated $50 to Wikipedia. Topped my macaroni and cheese with shredded cheese. Congratulated myself for being a genius. High-fived myself, took it into my blanket fort, and fell asleep while eating it. Replying to you because it's food-related. Found some strange chocolate cake in the freezer after my sister's birthday party the previous day. It was a real score because I was home alone as a 15-year-old, extremely high and craving dessert in a major way, and thought the leftovers were done. The cake was a solid block, about the size of a block of butter, wrapped in saran wrap. It was very dense, not like a cake at all. I could only eat little by little because it was really sweet, but it hit the spot just right. I sliced off thin pieces and enjoyed them while watching TV. After getting my share of delicious yet very strong chocolate cake, I want to put it back in the freezer. I noticed some bits on the other end that had been cut away in very small pieces, like very tiny pieces had been chopped out of the corners. Then I realized it wasn't a chocolate cake. It was frozen fish food for the aquariums my folks had in the house. I remained confused about this 10+ years onward because it genuinely tasted like chocolate cake to me. The power of placebo. I've never told anyone IRL this because it's way too embarrassing. You do know that frozen blackworms and bloodworm fish food taste like dark chocolate, right? I'm stuck between believing this and not believing this. It's like a bullshit Lagrange point. Not me, but a friend. We have a popular chicken finger shop called Raising Cane's in our college town. Now, those of you familiar with Cane's know that they only serve one thing, chicken fingers. All you can decide other than that is how many you want and whether you want fries, coleslaw, toast, and sauce. My roommate, high as hell, sat in the parking lot for a solid 20 minutes deciding just how many chicken fingers he wanted. When he finally came to his conclusion, he proceeded to pull into the drive-thru, only to realize the store had been closed before he even pulled into the parking lot to start his decision-making process. Holy shot. I had to check the pronouns before realizing this wasn't about me. A her, not a him. First time I was ever high. Walked back to my dorm. I decided that I needed to talk to myself in a tangible sense. Went on my laptop and FaceTimed myself through my iPhone. Had a full-on conversation with myself, with feedback for a solid 10 minutes. The first time I ever had an edible was with my friend in HS when we both had absolute zero tolerance. It was probably about 50 milligrams, but it was homemade and about 3 to 4 years ago, so I don't really remember super well. When it had really kicked and I called him as a joke, and the reverb was fucking us up, we thought it was the funniest shit to just try and distort the sound to the best of our ability. When we were done, we thought it had been at least 20 minutes. Look at the call time, and it had been like 4 LOL. So the first time I did acid, I was with a few friends and coming up in a very crowded McDonald's. I accidentally knocked over my longboard, which made a very loud noise. As I start bending down to pick it up, I freeze mid-squat and notice everyone looking at me, obviously because of the loud crash. But in my mind, everyone's looking at me cause they know I'm high. So I freak out and grab my board, sprint towards the cashier, and then immediately turn around and sprint out the door and ride off into the night. I probably looked like a deer that just heard a gunshot. Busting out of there into the open air must have felt like opening a plane door for you. One time I was in college and I was stoned in my brother. I was cooking bacon for our munchies. I kept telling everyone to shut up because in the back of my mind, I heard little tiny soft, beautiful music, kind of like a symphony. I was like, I'm so high. It was the bacon sizzling. The bacon sizzling sounded like a freaking symphony to me. Oh my God, you heard smells. When I was first entering college, just graduated, I used to smoke a lot of weed. I no longer smoke weed anymore, however, this memory stuck out. One day, I smoked a nice Jack Harrier strain, and I smoked a gram in one sitting. Not sure if that's a lot for all of you huge potheads, but for me it was, and it was top shelf. Basically, I started teleporting, or at least it felt like it. Well, I teleported to the bathroom, and I realized that there was a ring around my toilet. Normally, as guys, we ignore these things, but in this moment I couldn't, so I started scrubbing it. I cleaned it and then looked over to my right and saw in super HD the scum on my tiles and shower, hair, and everything that for some reason when I wasn't high didn't bother me. Imagine the SpongeBob Ken Burns close-up scenes. It didn't look dirty from afar, but bro, close up to me it weighs. I cleaned my shower and tub, then I noticed the floors, so I scrubbed those. Then while I was on the floor, I took my toothbrush to the baseboards and used toothpaste to scrub them. Basically, you get the point. Every time I would clean one thing in the bathroom, my eyes would zoom into the smallest detail on the next thing, and I would clean it. Eventually, my bathroom was entirely spotless. But I realized that there was a weird texture that I didn't like on the walls, so I grabbed sandpaper and sanded it down. In doing that, I took the color off, which was an off-white color. And so I grabbed my paints that I usually use on canvas and painted the walls. DR, it got high as fuck. Cleaned and remodeled my bathroom to damn near brand new condition. Come to my house, I'll supply the weed and pay you. Haha, went to order food, couldn't say the words, so I just pointed at the signs. The person helping me was cracking up the whole time. I look high as fuck with a stupid grin on my face. Not me, but my friend. We were going through a McDonald's drive-thru, and I tell him I want a cheeseburger with only ketchup. We pull up to the microphone thing, and the first and only thing his high ass said was, ketchup. Lady taking our order, as well as both of us laugh for a good minute or two. There is nothing more nerve-wracking than ordering food while blazed. First time I ever got high, I ate a piece of plain cinnamon bread and cried for 10 minutes because of how beautiful it tasted. My ex used to sometimes talk in her sleep. One night, I was up really late and was high, just watching TV, and I heard her say very clearly to me, "Let's get McDonald's." I thought to myself that it was a great idea, so I got up and started getting dressed. After I was done, I went back to wake her, and she was out. I shook her a couple of times and said, "Let's go. I'm ready." She finally woke up and said, "What? No, it's late, go to bed." I was so disappointed because I totally thought she wanted to go, and I was too high to drive, so I had to get undressed again and go back to bed. Looking back, I totally should have known that was just her talking in her sleep, but I was so high I did not want to accept that as the reality and chose to believe I was going to get some McDonald's. Now there's Uber Eats though. Imagine the glory. Spent 45 minutes frantically searching my home for my backpack that was on my back. Walked around my basement in a circle for about an hour, completely fucking lost. Like every time I turned around the area, felt completely novel. It was the oddest sensation. I once got trapped on the ground floor of my house on mushrooms. Every time I tried to find my way from the lounge to the stairs, some other room would seem fascinating, or I'd zone out and walk somewhere different. It was a bit like that thing where you enter a room and forget why you're there, but to the next level. I kept remembering that I decided to do something back in the lounge. So went there to remind myself, yet that thing was to get upstairs to my bedroom. It almost felt like my house kept reconfiguring around me, or something. My sense of direction was totally gone. Can relate, it's surreal. When I was in high school, I got too high and knew it was obvious to my mom when she got home. I texted my friend saying, "I think my mom knows I'm high." My mom then walked in and just looked at me and said, "Yes, I do." Checked my messages, and it turns out I had accidentally sent a text to her. In high school, my best friend came over high as shit. He usually talks to my mom for 10 to 15 minutes before coming up to my room. This time he rushed past her and said hey and told me, "I think your mom knows I'm high because she gave me this look." We came down to leave to get food, and she stopped him and looked at his eyes. She knew. We knew she knew, but she didn't say anything till I got home that night. She thought it was so funny, so she was fucking with him, LMAO. Once was so high I was convinced I was in the wrong body and that everything inside my skin was too big and pushing out on my skin. Funniest part was it didn't really give me anxiety at all. It was just like, well, I guess this is how it is now, nothing I can do. Ordered Taco Bell drive-through from a newspaper dispenser. Gave my whole order to a newspaper dispenser. Finally realized what I was doing. Rolled up another 5 feet to the machine to place my order. The staff was, rightfully, laughing at me. Why y'all driving while high? As someone that worked at Taco Bell when I was 16, this story makes me happy. We got so many high people during the late night shifts. It was the best. I loved that job. I was just getting out of a super stone shower and tried to wipe off my nipple with a towel. I'm not sure what I expected. Maybe for it to slide down my chest or come off on the towel. Fuck, I think I'm still high, LMAO. Have two. I was sitting on the bed of a truck swinging my legs and said, "Guys, I can move my legs without touching them." Another time I was sitting on the couch and we were listening to music and I look around and then say to my friend next to me, "Ty, can you see the music?" And he looks around and just smiles and says, "Exactly how you'd imagine a high person say it, yeah." Reminds me of the time my boyfriend got so high. He looked down at his legs and said, "I just really feel like I have feet." I was sober and laughed for a good 10 minutes about it. It's become a running joke for us now. Back when I still lived at my parents' house, I would come home high all the time, hungry as fuck, of course. So anyway, one time I was having an in-depth conversation with my dad. All while putting cheese, it's in a flour tortilla, rolling it up and eating it. It was tasty, and my dad never said anything about it. "Mom, Junior's home, and he's stoned again." "Dad, I know. This is the highlight of my day. Let's see what kind of goofy shit he does tonight." The first time I smoked weed, I walked around pretending to be a velociraptor. After that, I passed out for an hour. When I woke up, the power was off, not only in my house, but the stores across the street too. I stood up and started pacing around the room, freaking out. I thought the power company shut off power for the whole town because I forgot to pay my power bill. It took my friend 30 minutes to convince me it was just a power outage. LOL. I thought the power company shut off power for the whole town because I forgot to pay my power bill. I know that feeling, El Mayo. Got home late from work one night, put some food in the oven, smoked a bowl, and then watched some TV. About 15 minutes into cooking my dinner, I get this really high-pitched ringing in my ear. It was pretty loud and I couldn't figure out what it was. I thought maybe it was the TV, so I turned the volume down, but nope. That's when I realized it was the fire alarm going off. I had accidentally put my food on wax paper instead of parchment paper. I took edibles at high school. Was in chemistry when they kicked in. We had to write down some answers from some questions in a textbook, but I was too high to function and wrote down the questions instead. I couldn't stop laughing when my friend pointed it out to me. Then when I was leaving class, I couldn't get my books into my bag, so had the brilliant idea to empty my bag all over the floor and spent the next 10 minutes trying to put it all back in. First time I got high, I took 7 10 Sour Patch Kid edibles in a Colorado mountain cabin. I was high for 16 hours and so high I was puking. I felt drunk. I was 100% sure I was going to die from my friends turning on me and killing me or committing suicide because I was so miserably high. Anyway, this cabin had a VCR player and a small selection of movies. They decided to watch Space Jam. That movie is fucking terrifying high. I hid in the bedroom because it was too much. They spent 10 minutes talking about how bad Michael Jordan is as an actor portraying himself, and that scared me too. The amount of time spent on it gave me extreme anxiety. Then they knocked on the door and offered me a steak they just grilled. I was terrified of the steak and refused to even go to the kitchen. I eventually passed out at like 6 p.m., thinking it was around midnight. Slept straight through until about 8 a.m. Woke up still high and went outside before anyone else was up. There was a tire swing at this cabin, so I decided I would sit on it. I sat on it and tried to swing but fell out. I got upset because I couldn't figure out how to stay in the swing. I'm not a regular user at all because of my job. 10 out of 10 would not recommend getting that high ever. El Mayo, I can totally imagine that conversation about an actor failing to portray himself accurately triggering some kind of existential crisis. It's like a paradox. If he's bad at acting, then he's just kind of being himself, right? But if the role he's failing to portray is himself, then what? My friend, who was also really high, started the conversation about it. He went from finding it hilarious to being legitimately pissed off that Jordan couldn't do a good job being himself. He actually paused the movie at some point so that we could talk about it more without missing all the juicy details. It was at that point I had to bail. An existential crisis had kicked in, and I started seeing small waves when looking down at the plain beige carpet. I said fuck it and bailed. I vividly remember standing in a hallway that separated the bedroom, living room, and kitchen for like 5 minutes trying to figure out which room I wanted to go into.